So in terms of Pilates, which is movement-based, there's a whole area of mindfulness which is called mindful movement. And we use it in order to raise body awareness. So if I'm moving mindfully, it's not actually about the exercise. So it's not as though I'm moving my arm in order to build up my muscles. I'm building up my awareness of how that moves. But so if I give you an example, is that if I'm watching one of your fantastic Pilates videos, which I'm loving, by the way, is that what I find, and I noticed particularly the first time that I did one of your videos, is that my attention was on you and trying to copy you. So you moved your arm and I thought, right, I need to move my arm up here. But my attention is actually kind of on you and just on trying to get my arm up here. So you can see as I make that movement, I'm not doing it with any care. And actually my awareness is out there. It's not in my arm. So if I'm being more mindful about it, first of all, I come back into my body. So my attention, I don't know if you can feel that, but if your attention is like on me at the moment, your attention is sort of outwards. And if you take it back to be in your body now, so if we turn this into a little bit of a practice, is that all right if I kind of segue into a bit of a mindfulness practice here? Is that wherever you're sitting, can you feel that your body is already moving with each breath? So you might find it easier to notice if you actually kind of sit up a little bit, so that you're just in a position where you can sense your body a bit more. But so you can close your eyes if you like. I find it easier to feel things in my body if I close my eyes, but you don't have to, you can keep your eyes open. But just notice how your body is rising and falling with each breath. So it might be really, really slight. Maybe an obvious place to feel it for me is across my chest and around my rib cage. I don't know where your attention is taken to. There's never a right or wrong. And then if I focus in on that sensation, I'm actually aware that not only is my body rising sort of forwards and backwards, it's also side to side. And there's also a very slight flex in my spine. Which I can kind of also now feel that there's a slight rise and fall in my shoulders. And if I let my attention drift down into my arm, I can just sort of allow my arm to rise and fall a bit with my breathing. So if you can feel that just slight rise, then now if you keep your attention within your arm and just allow it to move up as your body rises with the breath, and back down as your body falls with the breath. Just a really slight movement. But now I'm really in my body as I move. So now if I think of moving my arm up as though I were doing Pilates, if I now just extend that movement, that feels as though I'm now in my body. It's as though the movement is an extension of the breath in my body, which is naturally there anyway. So it's a different way of moving, sort of from the inside out. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. How does that, can you sense that or not? You don't have to.
Yeah. Yes, but how do you balance that? Because you said you were looking at Louise, and that's a good one, you know. In order to do the right thing, we have to look at the right movement. We have to look at Louise. If we close our eyes and focus on it, I suppose we should look first and do afterwards. Is that?
The thing is yes, you can look and then close your eyes, but also I was only closing my eyes then because I was taking you through that practice.
Mm.
So as you become more familiar with that sensation, which for me is easier to feel the sensation for the first time when I close my eyes, but no, in the Pilates class, so this is what happened in that first video, was I suddenly thought, oh, hang on, I'm just sort of moving my arm. I'm not really present for the moving of my arm. Is that then it's a case that I can still be watching Louise, but I've made a conscious decision to kind of come back into myself. And I don't know whether you can even begin to feel that now, is that there's a difference between if I'm watching a video, all of my attention and my body feels kind of drawn towards where my attention is. But if you now maybe play with just settling, maybe it's a slight settling into where you are, so that you can feel your body where you are, and your attention is, you're solid in your body even though you're aware of what's happening. So there's a less of a being drawn out towards something, and there's a more of a being solid where you are and still being aware. Does that make sense? So I'm more solid in my body and noticing. So if I was watching Louise now, I'd have noticed that I'm all kind of outwards, particularly when we're rushing through the day. I feel very drawn out of my body into what's going on. So one of the first things I do, as Louise often does in her videos, is ask you to like take a breath, and that's to help you come into your body. But then it's that sensation of, I'm going to stay in my body. This is where my focus is, and the movement comes from here. So even though I'm watching Louise, I've brought my awareness inside, and it's extending, the movement is extending from inside my torso.
And actually, no, and that's really good, and it's a really good way of explaining it, because once you get to know the moves, you need to look at me and you can listen to me. But I also say quite a lot that, you know, the movement and the breath are going together, and that should become one. So actually now, if you start thinking about being in your body more, I think that might make it easier.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be sort of jerky, and I know, you know, we have a laugh sometimes, but it shouldn't be jerky movements. It should be smooth and going with your breath.
Yeah.
So that's really good for me to just sort of think about that and think of the ways of teaching that a bit differently.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's that, you know, you think that when you're sitting still, you're still, but realizing that even when you're sitting still, there's this natural movement. I mean, I'm obviously exaggerating it now so that you can see it on screen, but there's this very gentle sensation. So again, before you actually make a move, that, as you're saying, Louise, if you're asking people to come back to their breath, is that you just actually pause and really feel that. And then, because you're in, then the movement follows. And also then you become more aware of where your body is in each moment. So if I go back to that example, if you just tell me, I want to lift your hand up here, my attention is already up there where I'm going. It's already goal orientated. It's just like, I need to get my arm there. If I'm being more mindful about it, I'm thinking, I'm going to sense my arm moving. So my attention is in my body here, and I feel in each moment, my arm is here. And now it's here, and now it's here, and now it's here, and now it's here. Oh, and now it's ended up here. But I'm in here. I've been present for the movement, if you like. I can really feel the movement as it happens, rather than just, I've projected into the future. I want my hand up here and I'm going to put it up there. I've sort of missed the fun of getting there, if you like. Missed the being. And that also has a really important part of being aware of the hard and soft edges of taking care of ourselves while we move. Because if I am just focusing on, oh, Louise is doing it like that, so I need to copy her. And particularly, as you say, if I'm doing it in quite a jerky way, I might actually injure myself. Because if I'm more present for where I am, I might get to about here and think, oh gosh, my shoulder is tight. I need to just kind of relax that. Oh, and now I've got a bit more movement whereas if I hadn't been aware that there's tension here, I would have just moved my arm up and thought, oh, wow, I've hurt my shoulder now. So it's being aware of what's going on in our body is that realizing, being aware of where I'm holding tension and being aware of where my body's going, oh, hang on a minute, that's not great. And also helps me to notice alignment, because as I'm doing this, you're probably seeing I'm actually tilting over one way. So because I'm being mindful of that, I can feel the subtlety of, oh, hang on a minute, should my spine be tilting? That doesn't feel very comfortable. And probably Louise will have said to me, don't tilt your spine, keep this, you know, keep your alignment, keep your hips in a certain way. But again, if I'm just sort of doing that, I won't notice the subtlety that I'm actually starting to feel imbalanced. Whereas if my tension is inwards and I'm in my body as it's moving, without you having to correct me, I'll be thinking, oh, that feels a bit odd, and what's happening in my spine? And then I'll be able to sort of feel that with my spine in that feels very different from this.
I think that happens, I was going to say to Jenny, that sort of happens as you get sort of Pilates way, without thinking, it sort of happens naturally, ultimately, doesn't it? When you get used to exercises within the Pilates.
Yes, and I find particularly when we're doing them sort of online now, I find it easier. I do sometimes just close my eyes, I listen to what you say, and I feel I'm getting more out of it that way, and then having that time, as you say, in that sort of mindful. So it's less distracting, I think, also. But I can just listen and close my eyes and carry on. Yeah.
And I think we'll probably be more mindful than we thought we were being.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone else feels that when they're doing it at home to when you do it in a class. I think I better being in a online than I do in a class, because it's whether I don't have the control in the class. That sounds awful. I do have control in the class.